May the flow take their souls to the sea in the north.
Easy
It is here. I can hear it.
A good point.
Lily!
The benefits of field mapping.
Lian!
A new hypothesis.
Copy that!
It is here.
Taking another look.
Thunder! To me!
Winterstürme wickeln den Wundermond.
An academic question. A new hypothesis.
I can hear it.
An academic question. A good point. An academic question. A good point.
It is here.
Easy la! Copy that!
An academic question. A new hypothesis. Limited scale, infinite lines. Behold. The benefits of field mapping.
I can hear it.
A good point.
That's the direction. It is here.
A new hypothesis.
Ice flood.
Un officier n'est pas un capitaine.
No other study could show you this. Don't touch the device.
The flood is coming.
A good point.
К вашим услугам.
Easy la!
Worry not. The direction of fate is decided.
The benefits of field mapping.
Look, an earth-suspended river.
Lily!
An academic question. A new hypothesis.
I can hear it.
An academic question. A good point.
It is here. That's the direction.
Limited scale, infinite lines. Confirm the coordinates. No other study could show you this.
Oh, this lands.
Пусть le naufragé течет вместе с водой.
I can hear it.
A new hypothesis.
What a tragedy.
Copy that.
Taking another look.
Soffoca il sangue! Ti soffoca il sangue!
Crickets and fireworks.
A good point.